That's pretty much it as far as announcements. I want to go ahead and get into the show proper now. Today's day, according to the Mayan calendar, is the so-called White Solar Wind Day. And the White Solar Wind Day is a very auspicious day for doing certain types of work, if you will, or having certain considerations. And the way in which the Mayan calendar works, there are 13 tones and 20 glyphs, and so you have a combination of one of those 13 tones and one of the 20 glyphs. The 9 tone is the solar tone, which relates to pulse, realize, and intention. The white wind glyph, which is one of the 20 glyphs, relates to spirit, communicate, breath. And so you combine this realization, intention, in conjunction with the aspect of spirit, communication, and the breath, and you have a really good formula for having a prayer or having the intent, prayerful intent, or gathering one's intent in this manner, in a spiritual manner. In conjunction with that, we have today being the National Day of Prayer. This is a day in which folks in the States are encouraged to pray for those in leadership positions. They're encouraged to pray for the president and his cabinet, the governors of respective states and particular people, and then on down to the local level. But it's in essence praying for those in power and to give them guidance in their responsibility or leadership roles. And so, again, today is National Day of Prayer. There's actually an official website as well that has a countdown to the Day of Prayer and that sort of thing. And I don't remember specifically how long the Day of Prayer or National Day of Prayer has been honored, but nonetheless, it is today, May 5th. Not to mention today being Cinco de Mayo, which many are familiar with. And today also Ascension Day falls on today being May 5th. It doesn't always fall on May 5th, but the Catholic Church celebrates a holiday which is 40 days after Easter. And so 40 days after this past Easter Sunday is today, which is celebrated as Ascension Day. And I think that's relatively self-explanatory, but it would allude to or indicate a further celebration of the ascension of Christ after the Easter Sunday. And then getting back to the Mayan calendar, this is a so-called portal day. There are certain days on the Mayan calendar that have more, you get more bang for the buck, if you will. There are more opportune days for doing energetic work, if you will. And so all of these things coming together kind of, in my estimation, kind of makes a trifecta, if you will, for having a bunch of things coming together for considering prayer. And so in light of all these people already in a prayerful mindset from these other events that are going on, I thought it might be, again, auspicious to kind of hop on that current, in a sense, and to already take advantage of the prayerful intent that's already been established during the day, and to help and add our energies. And so this will allow for an opportunity for all of you at home that want to participate. I'm going to, in a few minutes here, put up a copy of a prayer that is very near and dear to me personally, and it has worldwide recognition as well, and is being used by a lot of people all by itself. But in conjunction with these other events, I think it would, I feel like it's a great opportunity to bring this prayer out again and to use it again. And again, as I said, to hop on that current. I'm sure some are familiar with the Bible narrative or the gospel narrative and the idea that if two or more are gathered and agreeing upon something, then it will be done. And if we ask in Christ's name and two or more gather, then we will see great things accomplished. And this has been available to us for some time. And we know that as we gather numbers, then we gather our energy, we gather our momentum, and we gather together aspects of mass consciousness which can be used and motivated and directed for some specific purpose. And so certainly the numbers of people that we have participating in any prayer session or any meditative session that's a positive thing, certainly. But ultimately it boils down to the quality of the connection and the quality of the intent and the earnestness with which the prayer is initiated, and then the focus with which it's held, the intensity of the focus that the prayer is held into or kept in a state of tension with. And I'll use this example a little bit more throughout the show, likely, but the rubber band gives a great example. The person that is considering the prayer could be here, for instance, let's say, and the object to be prayed on is here. And so you set up literally a point of tension between the prayer, the praying person of the group, and the object to be agreed upon. And you set up this point of tension. And as this point of tension is held taut and is held in this fashion, so that the vibratory and the magnetic rapport can be built in and established and maintained. That's the key thing. We're maintaining this point of tension. If it's all loosey-goosey, you're not having that vibratory or magnetic focus that you need. And the focus is, as I said, a bigger component in many respects than the numbers of people involved. And so having the quality and the point of tension established and focused and maintained is, again, the key aspect of any successful prayer, invocation, meditation. And so in light of this, considering this point of tension and considering being able to jump in or hop in on an already existing current that's been established throughout or with the earlier days' activities and earlier days' prayers intent, we can add our intent along with that, I feel. And so I am going to use this prayer called the Great Invocation, and the imagery that I would like to establish for any of those folks at home that want to add their 2 cents worth and want to add their energy, and they want to, again, in a contemplative manner, consider these words and consider them in the context of the National Day of Prayer. And the fact that, again, the concept that we should pray for our leaders and pray for their wise direction and for their being responsible in their leadership roles. I firmly believe that we do get the leaders that we deserve, or we get the agitators that we ask for. We may not be asking for these at the personal level, personality level, but at the soul level, certainly we are more cognizant. And so the way in which these things happen, whether or not you consider, these votes were stolen and the elections were stolen, things of that nature, that's almost a non-factor in the context of considering, whoever is in the leadership role should act responsibly and should have the prayers of the people. Whether or not you agree with their actions or not, it's still helpful, I feel, to, again, add that energy and to shore up and buoy up the energy of our leadership. And so rather than pray for the specific leaders in this instance, what I would rather do is just pray that the systems that we have in place to ensure that a good and right and proper and honest and just individual can actually be elected would be revised or reformed or reinstated sufficiently that we can be confident that who we attempt to get into office can get into office, irrespective of how much money they have, how many political connections they have, or what sort of high-level endorsements they are able to garner. The key is, I feel, to get the system back into a fashion in which we know with certainty, or at least some certainty, that the votes that we're casting are being counted and that there's some record of the vote, and that ultimately we can take back the voting process adequately so that we can, again, get people in of real character, not just a bunch of characters that have connections. And so this is more so where I would like to apply the energy and the intent of this particular portion with this particular prayer, in that I would like to ask that the systems that are in place to elect officials would be cleansed adequately enough so that we can start depending on them and putting our energy in them, back into them, so that we can, again, we can be quite confident that we're getting the people that we truly want in, that are going to look out for the people's interest and not for their own self-interest. And so with that sentiment in mind, I would like to ask anyone that's interested to use the words of this prayer along with myself, and to keep that thought, that focus in mind, and that point of tension, that we can help alleviate many of our problems if these things can change and allow for appropriate people to get into office. And so anyone that's interested, please clear your mind, focus on the contents of the imagery, and I'd like to begin now. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. And I'd like to thank everyone that took the opportunity to help me out with that, and I'm probably going to be doing a bit more along those lines, perhaps a bit later in the show as well. And so, again, I want to encourage people to keep that thought in mind. A lot of times when it comes to people that are finding themselves in a prayer situation or a meditation group, there oftentimes is a condition where we build up a lot of energy and we get quite enthusiastic, or we calm ourselves down through our prayers or our meditations, and we put ourselves in a good state, and we feel joyful, we feel complete, what have you, after the meditation or the prayers is completed. The key, though, is to keep that continuous prayerful state of mind intact throughout the entire day. It's quite easy to get what would be kind of like a sugar fix syndrome in relation to prayer or meditation, in which we catch this really high high and then we come crashing down because we're not able to maintain that prayerful and insightful attitude and that introspective attitude that allows us to maintain the point of tension, keep the point of tension and that point of focus past just the actual prayer itself, past the meditation, but on into the day, and continuing to where this becomes a steady, consistent, automatic, and instantaneous state of consciousness. And so we can try to alleviate the peak and valley kind of conditions that are incident with this kind of activity. And that's not always easy to do, and that certainly it takes time to be able to build in the kind of attitude and the proper alignment and balance within oneself that allows for one to, again, maintain a point of focus throughout the remainder of the day. The best time to meditate, for instance, and I would imagine to, if you want to begin your day with a prayer, beginning the day, obviously, early in the morning, to set the tone for the remainder of the day. But if things start to distract us early on and we have a bad drive into work or any other number of things, or we speak to a coworker and they say something that offends us, I mean, endless things can come into our state of consciousness and our awareness that would tend to reduce the point of tension into something less than. And so that, again, is the key. How do we maintain the point of tension, and such a point of tension so that it would shatter all of these trivial, insignificant happenings that crop up in our consciousness during the day. And so that point of tension would allow us, again, to cut through, to keep our focus right through all of these distractions during the day. And so that this automatic unfolding would be a part of an inner reflective attitude. And again, this is something that comes with time and practice, that it just becomes one's natural self, one's natural way of interacting with other people, and a natural means of one's expression. And so our most inner processes will be externalized in this respect by keeping that point of tension, that point of focus. And again, this as people begin to get more from just random praying, pray here and there, pray when I'm in trouble, pray when I need something, to a state where aspiration, devotion, prayer, and ultimately fixed intention maintain and dominate and direct our focus. And again, once this takes place, then this can be a more constant or consistent state of mind that one can follow through. And one can really be a diplomat, a problem solver, and a place of peace within seeming chaos and turmoil. And again, this is something that from finding one's own place of balance, one can bring balance to a larger area, to certainly the home environment, the work environment, or wherever one may find themselves, that maintaining this inner peaceful attitude can be reflected in their actions to the degree that it influences others, and other individuals can look at the peaceful person as an example, and just their very being in a situation by virtue of the peaceful attitude sets up a magnetic current. It sets up, again, another point of tension between the person and another group or whatever interactions one finds oneself involved in, that they can resonate and have a magnetic rapport in which this peaceful place emanates out and does do its work. It does have a calming effect, if you will, on other individuals. And so those that are able to maintain a clear and cool head in a chaotic situation are those that are able, again, that have this, they're demonstrating this to some degree in their life expression. And so that's something to consider as well, this idea of invocation and evocation. And that's certainly what a prayer is us invoking or calling down something greater than ourselves, something more inclusive than ourselves, in order to uplift ourselves, our situation, or on behalf of someone else, or behalf of some circumstances. And so again, this process of tapping into a larger aspect of ourselves ultimately, in order to identify with it, in order to resonate with it, in order to bring it down, if you will, or back into our personality consciousness, for the uplifting of, again, not only ourselves, but those around us in any situation that we can contemplate on. And so, again, that's another aspect of this as well. There are many great world prayers that have stood the test of time, and it continue to have momentum, and continue to be able to have the magnetism. Certainly, again, we spoke of having numbers, two or more gathering, and having a mass number is certainly auspicious as far as doing something, but the quality and the potency and the intent, again, is more important, if not more important. And so as a prayer gains momentum, if you will, and is used over time by more and more people, then it also gains a quality, or it is magnetized or qualified by the intent of people using this prayer over time. And so certainly the Lord's Prayer would be one example that has been used for over 2,000 years, and that has continued to gain that energy that's been built into it over time. And so when we use a prayer like that, again, it has already built into it some inherent energy, some inherent magnetism by virtue of just mass use. And so as we can achieve a point of focus based on that, in addition to that, then it only helps us out that much more. And so the Lord's Prayer is certainly another prayer that, like the great invocation that I used earlier, allows us as humanity to relate to or to align with the will or Father aspect through the intermediary of the Son being Christ, the Son of God. And so that being the case, the way in which a prayer works, there's a hierarchical stepping down, if you will, in which great spiritual energies are stepped down for our use. And another thing that we're in the midst of currently, that more esoterically minded individuals are considering and focusing in on, would be in terms of what is known as the high spiritual interlude. And this is comprised of a 3 full moon period, starting with Easter and then into May with the Vesak, or the Festival of Buddha, and then culminating with the June full moon, which is considered World Invocation Day, in which the prayer I used earlier is emphasized, or the Festival of Christ. And these, again, are the high spiritual interludes. So these three particular months are really emphasized in certain spiritual work. And so basically our battery is being charged, if you will, so that during this intense 3-month period, enough energetic intent and enough access to the stream that's being tapped into can be engendered for later use throughout the remainder of the year. And so the lesser interludes, the remaining full moon periods and new moon periods, can be considered in that context. And so again, we have an opportunity to really store up a lot of energy and to really generate a lot of energy that we can have, I guess, again, like I said earlier, in a sense of kind of like a battery or a reserve tank that we can fall back on for later work. And so this, again, this is based on the idea of invocation and evocation, and also within the cycle of the full moon, that this indicates for us and has implications for our humanity, going from the new moon to the full moon cycle, and that the waxing and waning has its correlation to the quality and the consistency of the prayer that's offered up. And so we can use the ebb and flow of the full moon process to really emphasize the energies that are being focused on the planet at this time. And certainly the moon being an astrological component to the Earth factors in as well, and the idea that the moon controls our emotional nature. And also the fact that our body is largely water, and the fact that, considering that the moon controls the tides and the moon has a lot of effect that has been scientifically studied throughout time, some more seriously than others, and the idea that lunacy, it's obviously based on lunar, that this lunacy can crop up during a full moon time. And so the idea of the importance and the potency behind the full moon period and the new moon period has been with humanity for a long time. In the future, it will be more approached in a scientific manner, and some of the organizations that are starting to use the full moon energy in this respect will allow this to become more mainstream in time. Certainly, this may be a new and foreign concept to some or to many, but I think as time goes by, that this idea of using this energy, again, between the new moon and the full moon, and that waxing and waning, it ties into the idea of points of tension and points of release. The full moon time would equate to the tension time, and then the new moon would equate to a period where there would be more rest. And so we ebb and flow between these. That's not to say that we don't set up a point of tension when we work on the new moon as well, but again, the way in which the energies ebb and flow, it does have some reflection in the way the point of tension builds and then resides, because we don't keep a consistent point of tension when it comes to our prayers. We offer up the prayer, and then we allow the prayer to do its work. To overemphasize and to think through to every specific final detail oftentimes just clouds the prayer and renders it obsolete or not as effective in many cases. The ultimate key is to engender the point of tension, to create the point of tension, and then let it be. Allow the invocation process to kick in and to do its work. And let's see. Okay, so that's one aspect. And then also the Lord's Prayer, as I said earlier, like the invocation, does relate us as humanity to the Father through the Son. And there are other prayers too that are wonderful prayers that have been around a long time. And I do want to share another prayer this is called the Gayatri, and this is an Eastern prayer. This is in English translation. When you hear it in its original, it's very powerful and it's very musical, and it has a much greater effect, I would say. But nonetheless, the English translation is quite beautiful in and of itself. And so, again, being that this is a National Day of Prayer and the theme of the show is prayer, and I am trying to tap into that current, I'm going to hop back on the current and I'm going to say another prayer. And in this instance, as far as any imagery concerned, if people want to just listen along to the words of this, if they don't already know them, again, I'm going to use the English version. I would just like people to consider their own situation and their own health and their own well-being and their own ability to understand abundance, life, vitality, cooperation, and opportunities. Take advantage of opportunities. Sometimes opportunities may come in a disguised fashion and things may seem like they're falling apart, but in actuality, we're getting a needed lesson to learn. And so for our self-generation and for our own benefit here, I would like to ask anyone that's interested to follow along as I use this prayer, the Gayatri, and let its work kick in as well. O Thou who givest sustenance to the universe, from whom all things proceed, to whom all things return, unveil to us the face of the true spiritual sun, hidden by a disk of golden light, that we may know the truth and do our whole duty as we journey to thy sacred feet. And that's a very short and sweet prayer, but I think nonetheless quite effective and a very beautiful prayer. And also, the more one delves into esotericism, the more one will see the sun as a symbol, and as it's ever been throughout all great religions, the symbol of one God. The one God is ever symbolized by the sun. And the more one delves into esoteric studies, one will find that there are other components to the sun, and that the veil of the golden disk of the sun is equivalent to our physical vehicle. It's not the true sun. It's only the outer garment of an inner process, and that there is an inner, there's a central spiritual sun, and then there's an intermediary aspect as well that we can tap into that would equate to, again, the golden disk that we see in the sky relating to the physical vehicle or vessel, the intermediary portion of the sun relating to our soul nature, and then the central spiritual sun relating to our spirit, the most inner core of us. And so as we delve into that symbology more so, and we can gain greater understanding of the concept that, again, the sun is a symbol of the one God. Also, the sun is a symbol, if we're familiar with the tree of life, which I mentioned at the first of the show, the very central portion of the tree of life is Tiferet, is Christ, is the sun. And that central portion is also analogous to the heart, being in the center of our physical body, and that the heart is the mechanism or the means by which the other organs, being analogous to other planets in the system, receive their sustenance, and the lifeblood passes through the sun or through the heart, using this example, that it equates. And so the heart and the sun in the solar system and the Son of God, Christ, all can be equated. There can be some equation between the three, and they can be symbolic of the same great identity, the same great energy that is reflected in this imagery. And so this is something to consider. And certainly as we consider prayer, the heart is the main organ, if you want to use that term, that is employed in order to get this energy moving. Now, certainly we use the head or the mental approach in that we focus on the object to be prayed for, we focus on the words we want to use in our prayer, but this is secondary to the opening of the heart energy, and that the way in which that rapport works. And the heart, the energy of the heart can cross vast chasms of space instantaneously. The heart can instantly reach out from any point on the planet to any point in the universe, for that matter, instantaneously. When we think of someone, a loved one, or maybe even a pet or something like that, that as soon as that thought crops up or wells up, in us, and the component or the way in which our heart is activated in light of that, it instantly goes out. And so we instantly open our hearts as we enter this prayerful or meditative state. And this, again, this energy of the heart instantaneously goes out to the individual or the object that we are praying on or for. And so again, this energy knows no bounds. It knows no time restrictions. It knows no space restrictions. It instantaneously goes exactly to the heart of the matter, from heart to heart. And so this is part of what will ensure and is ensuring the unfolding of cooperation among the sons of men. And so we will continue to experiment along these lines. And as more individuals open up their hearts to other individuals, respective of all the differences that we can factor in, irrespective of race, creed, culture, all these things that are immaterial, and they make absolutely no difference to the soul, as the soul is one among all men and is really indivisible. Even though we have individualized souls, it is essentially like we all have one piece of one greater, larger collective soul that identifies with the other fragments or the other fractured pieces that are placed within other persons. And so this one soul, once it's tapped into, aligned with, and we engender that point of tension and that focus, then we can do much great work, because the heart will allow and will insist, it will compel us to, again, cooperate at different levels. And so this is really our hope and our opportunity, and this is an indicator of what's taking place. Gradually, much disruption is unfolding in order for the one soul, the one heart of humanity to remain in the midst of all the wreckage and all the chaos and all this deconstruction. The heart will remain steadfast. And the heart is a battlefield, and the heart is like a fortress. And it not only protects us, but it strengthens us when we need to do something, when we need to act. It's that same energy that enacts us or compels us when we see a situation that we have to act instantly. We see the car is on fire and we've got to rescue someone. The house is on fire, we've got to pull this person out. The heart is that stronghold that instantly recognizes and acts, and it forces us to follow along with that impulse. And so as this is engendered more so, and it becomes a more consistent state of mind within our humanity, then we can do much to not only cultivate the energy of the heart, but to build cooperations and relations based upon, again, that heart energy, or that unifying energy that we all have access to, and that we all are a part of at some level. And so that, again, is another consideration along those lines. Okay, I do want to, again, fall back on the Great Invocation, if I may, and I'm going to use another set of imagery. And so if folks will bear with me here, and again, those that are interested in joining along at home are encouraged to do so, and I would encourage everyone to consider using their energy and intent to gather in the context of this second using of the invocation. This is something that I feel like can't be used enough. I use this prayer myself, I don't know how many times a day. Many times a day I use this prayer. And more people are using it. In the second set of imagery, I would like us to consider the city of Austin. The city of Austin, in my estimation, there are certain cities in the United States that are akin to certain centers in the body. And we can look at Los Angeles as being the heart center of the United States. We can look at Chicago as being the solar plexus or the gut instinct of the United States. We can look at New York as being the head center of the United States. It is my contention, although I don't have any firm factual evidence to back this up, nonetheless, it is my contention that Austin is the ajna center of the United States, or the intuitional center, and that what is being intuited here can be a template or a role model, or can set up a point of magnetism that can influence or affect other cities in a like fashion. And so by virtue of us having this, I feel us being the ajna center, or the intuitional center for the country, and again, this is just my own surmising, but I think that we have a real opportunity to cooperate and to completely come together on matters of truth-seeking and just cooperation, kick aside all the party affiliations, all of the labeling, all of these insignificant and trivial things that divide us and prevent us from working together. Forget all these racial divides and any of these things along those lines, but just consider Austin in the sense of the intuitional center and a place in which we can focus in on the way in which we need to direct our energies and to have, again, some intuitive insight into the next step to take. And I think that we are providing people, not only in the States, but really around the world in some respects, with examples of the next opportunity, the next example, the next thing to intuit. And so we're always, or we tend to stay ahead of the curve in many instances, and we tend to be the ones that are the trendsetters in many respects in this city. And I mean, that's happened before with psychedelic music originating here in the 60s. We're pretty much the stronghold of the Patriot movement in many people's estimation. And the metaphysical component is really coming on board and is working in relation with that. In addition to the nonpartisan mentality that's being engendered and cultivated by the politically motivated and activated people in this area, that they're not really, relying on the old party lines. I'm Republican, I'm this, I'm that, I'm Libertarian, whatever. People are getting together on the issues. And I think if we can cultivate that attitude in Austin and continue to intuit our opportunities, we can do much. And so I would like to use a set of imagery now in which the entire city of Austin is completely surrounded. Underneath the city, miles underneath the city, miles above the city, and all around the entire city of Austin, if we can envision a bubble, if you will, of light and of love and of cooperation and of peace and understanding and of truth-seeking, then we can get a lot accomplished. And we've already started, we have already made much as far as inroads in this direction. But I think we can do so much more by directing and guiding our intent, and again, jumping on the current, as I spoke earlier, that's already available on this day by virtue of the National Day of Prayer and, and Ascension Day and a few other things. And so if we can consider Austin as this intuitional oasis, and this opportunity making place, and this trend-setting opportunity that we have as well, that we can be real leaders by example for the rest of the nation, and we can set up, as we've done in already some instances, systems that can be replicated in other places, and we can do much good. And so if we can consider Austin in that context, I would like to use this prayer of the Great Invocation once again and use that set of imagery. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. And I want to thank once again everyone that took the opportunity to help me out with implementing that prayer and setting our focus and our intent. And this again is something I would like to ask individuals to attempt to maintain that point of tension. What we've just established, again, from us to the object, we've set up a point of tension by using these prayers today. If we can maintain that point of tension and maintain that intuitive focus and that spirit of cooperation, then we can do a whole lot to help, again, just establish a cooperative attitude among the people in the city, and we can get a lot done. Let's see, as far as, I was going to mention another aspect of this. I kind of lost my train of thought, but nonetheless, we can anchor this intent, and we can keep it focused, and again, be an example to other people in other parts of the country and other parts of the world for that matter as well. And so I want to encourage again anybody that worked with those prayers to keep the focus going the remainder of the day. Okay, cool. So we do, it looks as if we do have some additional toll party information. As I mentioned earlier in the show, the city council race is upcoming this weekend, which is the 7th. And for anyone that's interested in assisting with the Austin Toll Party, this is the phone number that you want to call, 371-9926. And they certainly still need volunteers, I'm pretty sure with their office and with the poll watching at the polling places. And that would be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. this upcoming Saturday, which is the 7th. And so anyone that wants to help out along those lines, I would encourage them to do so. This, again, is an example along those lines that I just spoke of about cooperation in the city, outside of party lines, just on the issue, just on trying to extract the truth of the matter collectively. And as we can work in this fashion, more so, we're going to get a lot done, and we can again be that shining example that I feel we need to be and we must be for the remainder of the nation. And so that, in light of that, that's something that I would like folks to consider. I guess I'm going to go ahead and try for some phone calls in the last waning minutes of the show, so let me go ahead and see what's going on here. Hello, caller, you on the air?
Hey, Corey.
How's it going?
You're talking about enlightenment versus enfrightenment.
Right, that's the theme of the show.
And a couple of times you mentioned racial issues.
Yes.
How do you feel about the evolution of Austin and how it's all going to play out with the illegal alienism going on in this town and in the country?
Well, that's a multi-headed hydra, and I'm confident at some point in time I will do a full show, and I've considered this before, to do a full show to kind of put the immigration issue in a metaphysical context, if you will. But I do want to make one firm clarification from my perspective, and you can take this however you need to take it. And this is something I've only recently, within the last year, come to a real inner realization of myself, and that is there are no illegal humans. You know what I mean? People were born on this planet, and they're here as a human being on this planet. So there is no illegal human. There are certainly undocumented humans that find their way across borders.
Well, wouldn't undocumented be the same as what you just said before that? And really, well, technically, they're illegal. So, like, I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. They might be breaking some laws, but can you say they're illegal? You know, you're saying that this human is illegal, and I have to divorce myself from that kind of thinking, or I've had to as of late, or recently, in order for me to reassess.
Well, you're a very smart man. Maybe you have some knowledge on why it is that we have that problem, if you want to call it a problem, here in America, and that's because
it's by design.
World order.
It's by design.
Yeah,
you know this is. I'm sure you realize it's by design.
I mean, here we are mingling around in other countries' affairs, and I think it has something to do with that too.
Right. We're outsourcing. We're downsizing. We're sending all of our jobs, and our manufacturing base is gone out of this country. This is all these policies that have been implemented for years and decades are all culminating in that right now. And so it's just it's symptomatic of policy making. It's symptomatic of what filters down into legislation, and it's a big monster. It's been going on for so long that you can't just easily pull the plug and say, okay, let's stop it now. Nobody else can come in. All you guys that are here now, you guys have made it safely, whatever. But we're going to refuse anybody else to just stop it like that. That's not going to help things either. I'm just going to add.
Possible that Mexicans in Mexico might have a civil war someday and solve their own problem.
Perhaps. I'm going to let you go on that note. I could see myself residing in Mexico very easily. So if it comes down to it, I'll swap places maybe one of these days, and I'll end up down there, and they can hang out over here or whatever. I don't know, But along those lines, and it's going to be difficult to get into this. Like I said, it's probably going to take a full show one day. But certain people find themselves here for a reason. Like, for instance, some of my very, very, very best friends, their grandfather, for instance, swam over or whatever. They got over here in an illegal manner. But the progeny of those people became my close friends and still are some of my closest friends. Of my group of closest friends, probably the bulk or many, a large portion are Hispanic folks, and they're in that same situation. So my point being, they had to get over here for a reason. The people that, this generations had to get here. So we're going to find problem solvers finding their way here that are going to help the situation. Yeah, we're going to have problems as a result of this, the way the system is in place now, but we're going to also have those problem solvers that find their way, in the belly of some woman that's swimming across the river or whatever, and then that kid will be somebody, and their kid can perhaps be somebody, and they will help the situation out. And that's yet to demonstrate itself to offset some of the larger, not so savory aspects of this that keep people in a contentious, fighting kind of disagreeing mood on the whole thing. But good question nonetheless, and I hope to do a show on that sometime in the future. Hello, caller, you on the air?
Keep Austin white.
Okay, that's certainly your prerogative. Hello, caller, you on the air?
Yeah, I was going to ask, your topic is prayer, right?
Yes?
Yeah, I was going to ask, why does Benny Hinn and Pat Robertson not go to Seton or Brackenridge and lay hands on people so that doctors could verify that people are healed? Could it be like some kind of political coalition to bring certain people to power? And also, isn't it bearing false witness when police officers require certain things of U.S. citizens that they don't require of like illegals? And also, isn't it a sin to lie? So if you say you're from here and you give a false ID, isn't that lying? And wouldn't that be a sin? And wouldn't that be warning the judgment?
I'm going to keep you on the line for a second.
Like abortion does?
Well, okay. To me, when it comes to man-made law, there are a lot of man-made laws that, to me, I think should be rendered obsolete. And the age-old example is there used to be laws that said this man could be this man's property. And I would say to defy that law would be a good and right and proper thing. So we have to just look at the laws, assess them in your own heart and your own mind, and determine what you feel is something you should follow. Whether it's written down as the letter of the law in some book somewhere and some judge has made a ruling on it, matters little. We have to follow our conscience and our hearts on these matters.
Yeah, I was just going to say that people that claim miracles, they have the biggest churches and the biggest following.
But there's a lot of money behind that.
Like go overseas, they don't really have much. And I'm wondering,
Right.
Has that got to do with people just looking for a quick fix to, don't want to actually think about any problem?
Right. Well, I would say that the vast majority of these guys that are, making this crazy, crazy money, it's all about the money, and these healings that they're doing, I would say it's questionable. It's very questionable. You know what I mean? You just have to just use your own, assessing capability, your own point of discernment and your own intuition to see what you think about these people.
Well, what I feel inwardly is that I should not use birth control, and I should just have as many kids as I can possibly.
Well, if you want to be prolific and you want to spread your name around, then that's certainly your option. I'm gonna let you go on that note, but yeah, that's up to you. And again, lying, it's all relative. It's not all relative. When it comes to man's laws, there are many of man's laws that I think are not worth following, so I personally don't follow them. The idea, again, that there are illegal humans, from my own perspective, there is no illegal human. There are undocumented people, but there is no illegal human, so it's just another consideration. One last call. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Can't feed them, don't breed them.
See, but it sets up all this contention. That's the whole thing. And it's by design. It's very much by design that this hate is ingrained and it's being fed to keep us apart. Divide and conquer, divide and conquer, divide and conquer. That's the establishment's, way in many respects. And so that's one aspect of that. We don't have a whole heck of a lot of time left, so I'm not going to be able to grab any further calls. I apologize for that. But I want to end on one note. There's a saying, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. I think if we can factor in and say light is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen, then we can look at that in that context. Light is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. I want to remind folks to check out Therefore I Am every Tuesday, 10 p.m., Channel 16, Christy Course and crew. Want to remind folks coming up this evening, Beautiful Losers, 10 p.m., Channel 16. We're here every Thursday, 8 p.m., Channel 11. I want to thank my producer, Chris, for commanding the helm of the Starship Esoterica. Again, the ESR show at gmail.com. If you want to contact me, I have access to be able to respond a lot more quickly than I used to be able to. So if you want to go that route, by all means, contact me. I'll make every effort to get back to you in a prompt fashion. I want to thank you guys, Austin, for taking the time to view. Have a nice evening. Take care. Bye.